Welcome to the Overrated Experience Sports Betting Podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Blondin. Well, it's here. It's here. Super Bowl 57 is finally here. And like most of you, I look at Super Bowl 57 as kind of the end of the betting season for 2022-23 season. And the day after is day one leading up to the next Super Bowl. So this is a big deal, biggest sporting event of the year by far. I'll put it ahead of any event that's out there. Obviously, the World Cup is huge. Loved it. March Madness is huge. The Masters is huge. The NBA Finals is huge. It's just a lot of stuff going on. But the Super Bowl is the Super Bowl. It is the king. It is the be-all, end-all in the sports gaming world. So we're going to pay homage today to the Super Bowl. Look at all the bets and all the opportunities that are amongst us. But first, I'll tell you a little bit about the Overrated Experience Sports Betting Podcast. This is the sports betting podcast for you, the average Joe bettor that is out there looking to have some fun, make a few dollars, maybe bet a few underdogs, have a few beers, sitting in front of their couch, in front of their TV on their couch with a few dollars on the game. One day maybe dreaming to be that pro bettor, can say, hey, I'm out of my job. I'm going to be moved to Vegas and be a pro, but the odds of that are probably low. But this is a sports podcast for you. I'm not here to necessarily give you winners. That's not the main goal here. I'm looking to give you picks for sure, where I think things are going to, the chips are going to fall. But the idea here is to build a sports gaming community that is able to share ideas, learn about the sports betting world, whether it be actually placing money down or how the industry works, and sports news in general, and give my take on what's going on in the sports world. And you can follow the Overrated Experience on Twitter at Overrated EXPER2, and that'll get you the opportunity to follow, see when the latest podcasts are released, and also give you an opportunity to give your feedback and get a shout out on the Overrated Experience, as I'm going to do right now. Shout out to those weekly listeners, and looks like we still got our listeners from Washington, state of Washington. Thank you very much for tuning in weekly. And a new listener from Philadelphia. That was cool to see. Congratulations, your Eagles are in the Super Bowl. So I hope you join us again this week to talk about the Super Bowl. You might not like me because I'm kind of favoring the Kansas City Chiefs, but nevertheless, BC, British Columbia, shout out to the west coast of Canada, obviously here in Scarborough, Ontario, here in Canada, our neck of the woods, Whitby, which is just a little outside of Toronto, and everybody else who tuned in, thank you very much, and we hope that you're long listeners and you're spreading the word. Help this small podcast become a larger podcast and really get the average bettor out there and talking and learning about what we do here, and that is become degenerate gamblers, if you want to be honest. So before we get into the Super Bowl, a lot going on. It is a Thursday. It's halftime. Lakers, Bucks here. Lakers up 8 points, 58-50. Lakers desperately need a win. LeBron James, after breaking Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's all-time scoring record in the NBA, is decided to sit. So in the last few days, the Lakers have picked up 5-6 players in trade deadline moves, and LeBron, expressing his desire to win more championships with a handful of games remaining, the Lakers sitting in 13th spot, has decided to sit on the bench, smiling in his nice suit, while this team is desperate to win every game possible to even have a shot at the play-in round. And he's sitting. So I hope that ankle injury is legit, because the Lakers, great that you made a lot of moves today, but if Anthony Davis doesn't bring it on a nightly basis, actually even gets in the lineup, he luckily is tonight, and LeBron James is not in the lineup and they're all hands on deck, they're not going to make it. So I don't know what is going through his head, or what his end goal is, or what his real desires are. So he's not in the lineup, puts the Lakers at risk, but it seems that at least for one half, they're up by 8, so we'll see what happens. Trade deadline in the NBA. I mean, you can't ignore what we witnessed over the last 24 hours. Absolute game-changing moves at the end of the day, at the end of the trade deadline. you're left looking at when the dust is settled, what has happened, who's left, who are the contenders, what does this mean? And I talked about football has been the main focus so far this year on the Overrated experience, and because we had the off week in the NFL, it was time to start transitioning to those other sports, hockey. But that also was on the back burner due to the All-Star weekend that nobody cares about. I'll give you a couple comments of what came out of the All-Star weekend after. But I think the NBA has stomped the sporting world to get attention through the last 24 hours in the trade deadline. It started with the biggest moves, which included Kyrie Irving a week ago requesting, hey, I'm not signing here. I want out before the deadline. The Brooklyn Nets accommodated. They send him off to the Dallas Mavericks, and the Dallas Mavericks also received Marquise Morris, and they get rid of Spencer Dinwiddie. Also Darian Finney-Smith, and a lot of draft picks. And get this, a 2029 first round pick, and it's unprotected. 2029, we're talking 6 years from now. Like if you look at the NBA and the draft picks that have gone, there were multiple 4 to 5 second rounders teams were sending to other teams. I think that gets a little out of line. Like I don't understand how you can possibly allow teams to trade first round picks that are 6 years in advance. I mean, you may not even have the same owners of these teams, much less the same GMs. So I think that's kind of a red flag when it comes to giving up the future, or unless you have a lottery pick, maybe it's saying that we'll take our chances. Who cares? So that was an eye opener. But Kyrie Irving gets traded to the Dallas Mavericks. So what do we think about that? Well, let's look at it this way. The Brooklyn Nets are a complete failure. This is the second go-around in the last 15 years where back in the day, they made their moves for Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce. That failed to a certain level. They won a couple rounds, but they mortgaged a lot to make those moves, and it did not pay off. They did not get the team they thought was going to be an NBA championship team. Move on. Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving signs. Kevin Durant, obviously his first year coming back away from Golden State, had the Achilles injury. He wasn't going to play. They knew that. And it was all revving up to him coming back and taking this team to the promised land with Kyrie and eventually James Harden. And I think I heard a stat today. They combined played 16 games together overall. What a complete failure on the Brooklyn Nets attempt to buy a championship. Obviously, Harden moved to Philadelphia. They get Ben Simmons back, who didn't even get in the lineup by the end of the year, which was a complete debacle. And then Kyrie Irving, obviously off the court focus a lot more than maybe on the court. We're not here to... I mean, what are you going to say? I'm not walking in somebody's shoes. I'm not walking in his shoes. And I'm looking at this from a basketball point of view. I thought, I was wondering what that standoff with Brooklyn was. I mean, Kyrie Irving is a free agent, unrestricted, at the end of the year. Like, did he... Like, who's at fault here? Did the Brooklyn Nets not take his request and or, read the room correctly when whatever happened during their contract negotiation or whatever he was looking for didn't go the right way? Did they read the room before he went public and stated he wanted out? Or was Kyrie Irving, guy couldn't wait until, free agency to move on, so he didn't completely just kick the Brooklyn Nets in the nuts? That he publicly went out and he wanted to get out of there by the trade deadline. So that's a lot to be desired. And there was even a story that the Nets owner didn't give a damn where Kyrie went as long as it wasn't the Lakers, because that's where Kyrie actually wanted to go. That tells you the hatred maybe that had developed between the two parties. But when you look at it from a basketball point of view, the Nets are done. They're in his 5th spot in the Eastern Conference. But that's going to slowly erode, and they probably will make the playoffs and make a quiet exit and look at what do the next 5, 10 years look like. Is Ben Simmons going to lead this team? I don't think so. But there's more to come with Brooklyn. So they move Kyrie Irving to the Dallas Mavericks. And what does that mean for Dallas? Well, you have Luka Doncic, who's one of the best players in the NBA, one of the premier players in the NBA. And what you can't do is allow a player that is peaking, heading into their prime, that is kind of left alone, where you're not maximizing the talent around him. Let's at Green Bay with Aaron Rodgers over the last 5-6 years. So I commend that the Dallas Mavericks took a chance, because that's what it is. It's a chance. There's no guarantee here. And what the chance is that this year, this run is what they're banking on, that they're going to take a run to the championship with Kyrie Irving, Luka teaming up in the backcourt and making a run to the Western Conference, and really taking this seriously. The mistake they may make, and I hope they don't, and I hope they recognize, is at some point this story will turn south. Everywhere Kyrie has went, whether it be Cleveland, although he wanted to go play with LeBron now, he had his issues with LeBron in Cleveland. He wanted to be the guy. He went to Boston. I'm going to re-sign here in Boston. I want out. 2 years into it, he's gone. Goes to Brooklyn. I want to team up with my best friend, Kevin Durant. And guess how that turned out? Well, now you're in Dallas. If I'm Dallas, I look at this as what Masai Ujiri did when he picked up Kawhi Leonard, and that was, I'm gonna change the culture of this team. I'm gonna take this seriously. I'm gonna dump DeRozan, who wants to be here, in the chances that Kawhi Leonard is going to come for that, most likely that 1 year, and make a run. And the story is set. They did. They won a championship. And that's the kind of move a Toronto Raptors in the NBA setting have to make versus an LA Lakers team who can pick up free agents, no problem. So I got to believe that the Dallas Mavericks are picking Kyrie up under the understanding that this is a 2022-23 season run, and leave it at that. Don't go off the handle to have to sign Kyrie Irving to a max deal, because I'll tell you right now, the history is proven that it will not last. There will be a fallout. Don't get suckered in. Let some other team get suckered in to signing him to a max deal, and let them go through the hardship of trying to move him to a 6-7 team that will eventually happen. So, and Kyrie didn't have a lot of good things to say about Brooklyn. And the other shoe drops. We find out that Kevin Durant has been moved in a huge, probably the biggest move of the trade deadline. I mean, the man's the best player in the NBA. Like, let's not kid ourselves. The issue holding him back is his injuries. But when you put him on a team and you send him to Phoenix, and you got you got the team that they've put together, it's just, they're going on a run. And if you're Dallas, you're thinking, damn it, like the Western Conference, I just picked up Kyrie, but then Phoenix goes and picks up, with Kevin Durant, and they get a stacked team making a run. And Phoenix is starting to peak now, right? They lost tonight, but they're starting to go in the right spot. And I got to believe that they're banking on being the top dog here going into the Western Conference final. I mean, the playoffs. And then you have the Lakers have dramatically made a lot of changes, getting rid of Russell Westbrook to the Utah Jazz, picking up pieces from the Jazz in a three-way, not from the Jazz, but a three-way deal. Picking up various pieces around, dumping Patrick Beverley from Mamba from the Orlando Magic, which changes the complexion of the team. So they have a lot more, I guess, depth. But, I mean, at the end of the day, I talked about it. If LeBron doesn't play on a consistent basis, if Anthony Davis doesn't play at the level he can, they're going nowhere. The only thing going for them, is my understanding, is a lot of the contracts they picked up, they can easily say goodbye in the summertime. Then it's back to the drawing board and see what the Lakers can do. But that could get really messy. But all in all, I do like the moves they made. The Western Conference is open right now at the bottom. So although the Lakers are in 13th place, they just have to string together a 5-6 game run, which can happen with this lineup, and get into the play-in round and see what happens. But they're risking a lot for a 13th seed team, and even though they've made their moves, I don't know if faced against the Phoenix Suns that there's any shot here that they're going to make a run. Faced with the Denver Nuggets, I don't know if they're going to make a run. Faced with the Memphis Grizzlies, possibly, but I don't see it. And a lot of even the Dallas Mavericks. So where are the Lakers going? I think maybe they're living in a dream world where their expectations should be making to the play-in round and not much else. So it's a lot of things moving in the West. And in the East, you have kind of gotten weaker, right? With the Nets kind of losing out on a lot of players. But when I mean weaker, probably from a depth point of view, when you look at the entire 10 teams, that including the play-in teams for the last playoff spots. But you look at the Milwaukee Bucks, they pick up Crowder. Just depth pieces. I think this team has been together so long, I just got to believe that they are still a heavy favorite. Obviously, to get to the final because they got an easier road. And is it really not going to be Boston and Milwaukee at the end of the day in the Eastern Conference? I got to think so. So we'll see what happens there. But I'll tell you, with this trade deadline and the fact that you do have the playing games for the final playoff spot, there's a lot of things to look at and really just smacks you in the face to pay attention to the NBA and all that's going to happen. And then at some point you have the buyout market. So a lot of the trades that have taken place today, a lot of the players picked up that were dumped, let's say a Russell Westbrook or whoever. A lot of these guys are going to get bought out and picked up from other teams to be contenders. So I don't know, some of the teams that held out maybe in the East, maybe the Miami Heat is an example, didn't really make a lot of moves. Do they pick up a Reggie Jackson that got dumped by the Clippers? I don't know. You're going to see a lot of buyouts and a lot of teams picking up these guys, and will also change the complexion. So there's a lot of good pieces that will still be added to rosters that will be depth guys that will make a difference. So we'll see how that plays out. But the NBA, wow, amazing. And you really took the attention of the sports world during a Super Bowl week, which is absolutely crazy. And shifting now to a league that has problems thinking like you do and think old-fashioned, and that is the NHL. You know, grew up as an NHL fan, huge fan, Leaf fan, waiting for a cup, which will never come most likely, or at least now I'm thinking my lifetime. Can't believe it. But they go into All-Star Weekend, which for those who are not hockey fans and maybe are basketball fans out there, NBAers want to be All-Stars. They look at it as an accomplishment when named to the All-Star team, especially as a starter. The NHL, you get that feeling like, I don't want to be selected. I don't want to go. I'd rather have the time off. And it makes me question, how does it make sense to have this All-Star game in the first place? It's in this world of sports gambling, you had a perfect weekend where you had no NFL action, where you could have had a hockey day in America, where you had Saturday and Sunday where you had games spread out by 20 minutes or whatever it may be, and have gamblers galore, sponsored by DraftKings, sponsored by FanDuel, sponsored by whoever, and they could have made something of it. Instead, some stupid all-star game who could care less what's going on. The skills competition is getting old. It's just tired and just short thinking. And we have our commissioner in the NHL, Gary Bettman, who is now on his 30th anniversary, right? Every other sport has changed commissioners. NFL to Roger Goodell. You have Adam Silver, NBA commissioner. You have Rob Manfred, MLB commissioner. It's just the NHL is becoming like that house you go into that requires a renovation, that has carpeting or has a popcorn ceiling. You're just behind the times, or maybe it's like dial-up. It's just no Wi-Fi. It's just getting old. It's like, and then you got Gary Bettman responding to one of the top players in our generation, Sidney Crosby, expressing his desire or thought that you want to reward teams by moving back to a 1-8 playoff system, where obviously the top teams get rewarded, and and instead of now where you have two wild card teams, but you have divisional matchups, but then you have locked in matchups already, like the Toronto Maple Leafs. The odds are heavy that they're going to finish playing the Tampa Bay. They're going to play the same opponent they did last year in the first round, the Tampa Bay Lightning, and it makes you believe why are the Leafs gunning for a top record in the Eastern Conference when they're going to face a team that's been to the Stanley Cup Final 3 straight years, instead of a bottom feeder where they get a break and a reason why they're gaining points and victories in the regular season. It doesn't make sense. It's short-term thinking, and it's dumb. And you have the commissioner, crotchety old Gary Bettman, that old guy. It just doesn't want to change. He tell you the story that, he went uphill both ways to school. And back in his day, there was no electronics. We didn't even have a remote for our TV. Like, God. Like, so his comment when asked about Crosby's comments at the All-Star game, Bettman pointed out any changes are easier said than done. You've got to also look at changing the wild card, he said. You've got to start looking at the matchups in terms of how many times everybody's playing everybody else if you're having conference-based playoffs. He's got to go. And these guys are old school, have not changed, and outdated, and are really, really moving this sport in a snail-like fashion. Now, give them credit. The TNT ESPN deal, although viewers are dropping, are effective and make sense compared to the previous deals. The move to expand in the United States, the benefit has been more, you have more players that have grown up desiring to be hockey players. So you get in Texas, Arizona, a lot of American interest. The college program is probably the peak it's ever been. So there is value there, but at some point you have to move on. You have to give fresh ideas, and that's where the NHL is at. And it's getting old fast. And you have, and here's another example. So the Vancouver Canucks had to trade their captain, Bo Horvat, who is having a great season. They just couldn't come to terms on a contract for long term. So the Canucks send the Bo Horvat to the New York Islanders. And if you didn't know who Lou Lamoriello is the general manager of back in the day of the New Jersey Devils, where this is the team that brought in the neutral zone trap, really clutching and grabbing, boring style. But I mean, you can't argue with their cup rings and effectiveness and winning style. However, boring and crotchety and kind of low paying, and everybody taking a hometown discount. So Bo Horvat in the NHL signs an 8-year, $8.5 million a year deal. And when he's asked about it, he comments and says it's too long. And this is Lou Lamoriello, general manager, after signing a player they believe is an impact franchise player. And he comments to the press seconds, minutes, hours, whatever it is after the signing, which is supposed to be positive. It's too long and it's too much money. Who says that? What general manager who is signing a player because you failed picking up assets in the summertime to enhance your roster goes out and has to make a desperation move, although being a decent one and being able to sign is good, but makes a comment it's too long and it's too much money. That tells you what you need to know about the NHL and the mentality. Too long and too much money. They have a set cap. It's a hard cap. It doesn't move. So it's up to you how you want to allocate that money. You didn't have to make the move, right? If this is an owner that's coming to you telling you have to make the move, maybe it's time for you, Lou, to leave. So Lou, go. Lou Lamoriello is a dinosaur, and I think his time is done in the NHL. It's too long and it's too much money. What year are you living in? I don't know. I do not know. So that's kind of the story in the NHL and the NBA as far as news. I thought an interesting gambling note was VSiN, which is the sports betting network. Great network, by the way. I don't necessarily subscribe, but I check out all the clips on YouTube and Twitter, and also the morning show is shown here on regular cable TV or Fibe TV. and I think they got great content. It is for the professional / everyday bettor, and I think it's awesome. You learn a lot. Listen to a lot of the folks on that on those programs on VSiN. So one of the highlights is yesterday. There's clips showing the interview with a famous bettor in Vegas named Billy Walters. Now, Billy Walters has a history of high stakes sports gambling. Maybe considered one of the best sports bettors ever in the world, and has a lot of tentacles in the sports betting world. And he's recently come out with a book, which, by understanding, will be released in August. And you got to think, when somebody like that writes a book, a professional gambler to this capability or this level, you're probably going to want to buy it. Maybe buy the audio version, put it in the car. Maybe you pick up a few things or insights about the sports gaming world you didn't know about, and kind of the things that go on. When you're at this level of sports gambling, those professional gamblers that are high stakes gamblers, they're usually cut off by the casinos, not allowed to bet, and they got to find what are called beards that go on their behalf and drop bagfuls of money on games that they're selecting, and they get a piece of the action. But it's really the Billy Walters that are making the selections, and these guys are making selections on a team of people that are grabbing injury info, tons of info on things that sway the lines, and these are the guys that put the money down, that move the lines. So if you see the Super Bowl line change from 1.5 as we get closer to the game, there is some sharp, which is the pros, that are making that happen based on the money they're putting down and or expected to put down. So Billy Walters interview, little clips with Brent Musburger, actually some cool, actually interesting insight. He had Billy Walters, that is, had spent time in prison due to some insider trading involving, and this story involves golfer Phil Mickelson. It's interesting stuff. I'd suggest taking a read of it. I know I am when the book becomes available. And the couple clips I seen for the interview were worth my time, and I think worth your time. So wanted to throw a shout out there. That interview is brought to you by VSiN, and probably some interesting stuff that we all can learn from. All right, now we're going to start talking about why you're here, and that is the Super Bowl. Super Bowl 57. So big game, as you know. Can't get any bigger than this one. You have the Philadelphia Eagles, Jalen Hurts, taking on Patrick Mahomes and his wonky ankle in Super Bowl 57 from Arizona. What you need to know, I mean, you sports gamblers should know this, I shouldn't have to tell you, is that Super Bowl 57 begins roughly around 6:30 p.m. So that means if you want to get to the bar, you got to get there early to get a seat. But recommended that you're absolutely getting reservations. Make sure you got seats. I've already done mine. Ready to go. Be there an hour early. Also get the invites out there. Get the game plan going. For God's sakes, sort out the tab situation right off the bat. I might be in repeat mode from last week, but I can't emphasize enough that the tab is absolutely critical. That you tell your server that you're taking the tab on. You and this guy are taking the tab on. You and this group of people are taking the tab on. If you don't figure it out by the third quarter, it's going to get sloppy. People are going to be missing, gone, committed to something. Who knows who ordered what. Just do yourself a favor. Figure it out beforehand. And I'd recommend probably just saying, hey, I'll take my own bill. And that way you can only worry about what's on yours. And if you want to buy a pitcher, you want to buy a round, you can just directly advise it's on you. So there's no surprises at the end. That's a tip from experience. Many Super Bowl parties, whether it be hosting, whether it be heading to the bar, that is the way to go. And if you're hosting, definitely know your audience, that you sort out the ride situation. That probably recommended everybody's using ride sharing service, Uber, Lyft, whatever it may be, designated drivers, who's bringing what food. Are you ordering pizza? They got to be finger foods. That's a go. That's what you need. So just get ready. It's a whole event. It's kind of like New Year's Eve, where you have folks that are coming out to watch the Super Bowl that are not necessarily super or football fans, and you would never catch them on a Sunday watching football like you would, and that's okay. Bring them to the party. Maybe they enjoy the halftime show. Maybe they enjoy what's going on. Maybe they care that Rihanna's performing. Great. I don't personally care. It's great and all for everything that he does, but the only thing about the Super Bowl that is different is that the halftime is much longer. So make sure that you understand that and you plan accordingly. So when you're putting something in the oven, maybe it's ready to go at halftime. You got plenty of time to get it out of the oven, cool down, and serve it. Also, what else should you know about the Super Bowl performances at the start? It's all-day coverage. But what's important on a Sunday is that a lot of the other sports, the NHL and the NBA, have games way before the Super Bowl, capitalizing on the day of the Super Bowl, but definitely not competing with the Super Bowl. So make sure you don't blow your bankroll before you get to 6:30, or don't forget that nothing else will actually be on after that. So plan accordingly. But now that we're looking at the Super Bowl, also from a betting perspective, from the actual Super Bowl, this is where all these weird bets come out that you would not normally see. And it depends what kind of player you are, right? So for me, I like the game itself, like the over-unders. I kind of like stick to what those bets are, that I would see in a conference championship, a regular season championship. I don't go necessarily out of that level of sports betting. So some of you might. I got buddies that love the fact, betting coin tosses and like million bets going on. That's where the rush comes from. Having, every play that's happening, you're looking at your selections to see if you won. Some people love that stuff. It's I like having more bets than normal, have the action going, but not to that extent where I give a damn about the length of the anthem, length of halftime show, what song Rihanna's going to pick. Those are all there. So if you like that kind of stuff, there's bets to be won. Excuse me. There is a few more bets I'll add into my plays that may not have been a normal bet, like you would normally see, but not too many. But I would definitely ask you to sit down in front of your laptop, look at your provider, and check out any promotions they got going on as well. FanDuel, for example, has the Gronk promotion where he's going to attempt to kick a field goal in the third quarter, and if he makes it, and you've made a wager already in the game, they'll give you $20 to play with. I'm really looking at more. I got to find more details on that, but that's the crux of what's going on. There's also deposit bonuses that you'll notice for a lot of sites so far have reached out to me that I've worked with or been with, offering a deposit bonus, not just the new user. So keep an eye out for that if it makes sense to you. But read the details, because you'll probably have to bet the bonus you receive plus the deposit you put in. So it's not just an easy, quick win and take it out. If you understand that, then you might see value in adding a few more dollars into your account. So that being said, going into the Super Bowl, some of the bets that you've come here to see me give you a pick for you. I gotta believe. See, the Kansas City Chiefs have remained the underdog, and right now the line has stuck at 1.5. And if you guys use BetStamp, I recommend it. The app allows you to see the lines in your area for the various sports books. And although a couple books have maybe 2 or 1 as a spread, but it's been pretty consistent that 1.5 and the over-under being 50.5 has been what most books have shown. So that could change leading up to Saturday. Like I said, some of the professionals putting a large amount. That professional is going to put a duffel bag into a counter somewhere in Vegas. Like, we're talking stacks of money here. And that's the kind of action you're going to see in Super Bowl. In my life, I would love to bring a duffel bag to a casino that I'm just taking out wads of money and just say, put it on this, that, and this. And sit there in the book and watch it and just live and die off of that game. It's a dream, but never know. Probably never experienced that. buy a duffel bag and just have nothing to go into it. But that's the way life is. So, with that being said, some of the bets that you're going to see me look into and look to deem as value bets include, and some of these are repeats from last week that I was looking at, but some of the odds have changed, or some I've removed, and some have I stuck with. So, I'm on the Patrick Mahomes bandwagon. I'm on the Patrick Mahomes makes his legend even bigger by winning this game on a bum ankle as the underdog. He has the big game that he shines, and just, again, that legend grows. Now, funny story, the media conference, he actually had to answer a question somebody asking him about his voice, because he has, like, I guess the thought is he has the Kermit the Frog kind of voice. So I can't imagine another human being actually having the balls to ask somebody about that. Like, you got to be the ultimate douchebag, and like, you got to show lack of class on that. But hey, it happened, and he answered it and had fun with it. So good for him. But Patrick Mahomes today is going to be my boy. I like, and I haven't figured out yet. Again, I'll decide closer to kickoff in the same game parlay, most likely. I like Mahomes to throw at least 2 touchdown passes, and it's sitting at minus 188 now, down from minus 230. But it's still a little high to bet it, obviously, by itself, and probably needs to be parlayed with something. And I'll figure out what that is, because there'll be a lot of time to wait as I'm sitting there at the bar an hour and a half ahead of time, figuring out how to spend my time. So there you go. That's going to happen. Jalen Hurts. I mean, I like the Chiefs to win as well. So let me just put that out there. I like them at a plus. I'll take that all day, plus 104. And I'm skeptical on the over-under, 50.5. Honestly, man, it's the overrated experience. The idea of having over in front of the word is that I like over. So I'm going to probably take it, but I'm not going to sit here and say, hey, I feel great about it. This is more my degenerate side that I hate taking unders, that is going to steer me in the over direction. So what I also like, though, is Patrick Mahomes. Sorry, going back to it's a Jalen Hurts and Patrick Mahomes theme that you're going to notice here. So Jalen Hurts, I had last week that I liked the total passing and rushing yards. It's moved up to 291.5. And again, I'm using FanDuel, by the way, just to throw that out there. 291.5. I think that's too high, so I'm not going to recommend it. I'm going to go to Mahomes over 38.5, minus 106, the longest passing play. Like, that's any point they go yard. They can go yards. So, like, I mean, why wouldn't that be a good bet to put in there? Over 38.5 yards is the longest pass for Patrick Mahomes. Jalen Hurts, longest rush, 12.5, minus 122. I have a feeling that, Jalen Hurts has evolved. He's evolved over the years. He's a better quarterback. He's getting all the accolades, and he deserves them. He's been great. But I think, at some point in this game, as Kansas City takes the lead, I think that he'll revert to his safe place, and that is using his legs. And 12.5 yards as his longest rush, I think is easy money at minus 122. So I like that. Devontae Smith has moved to a plus 104 for over 5.5 receptions. I liked it last week. It didn't, or 2 weeks ago, it didn't work out, and I think that was based on how the game played out. I think this is going to be more of a shootout, and I think Devontae Smith is going to make a mark here. So over 5.5 receptions at plus 104. I do like it. Another value play here is that the race to 5 that I've only really seen on FanDuel. KC is at minus 108, which is value to me. Why can't, they get the ball first, score their first touchdown. There you go. You got to pay out. Jalen Hurts over 238.5 yards passing. I'm thinking, how is this game going to play out, right? And I'm thinking how it's going to play out is that the Philadelphia Eagles are going to be the ones that are chasing the game, and it's going to force Jalen Hurts to go to the air. And I think that passing yard total is way too low, so I like that to go over for sure. Also, some Super Bowl specific bets that I like. Again, I said I didn't necessarily take a lot of these. Not my cup of tea, but you can't avoid what you see is a good bet, and you jump on it. One of them being Chris Jones He's at plus 500 to have 2 full sacks on FanDuel. I mean, he obviously had lack of success until last game of actually recording a sack, but he's the main guy, right? He's the main guy. I mean, the Eagles got a great offensive line, but why not? Like plus 500 for Chris Jones? Like he's an impact player. That seems like value to me. But here's real value, plus 130. Patrick Mahomes to win the MVP. Like who else is going to win the MVP? If KC wins, somebody's going to have like a ridiculous game for him not to be the MVP. So plus 130 I think is great value, and probably will go lower as we approach Super Bowl. So jump on it now. First touchdown, I have 2 plays here, and it's contingent on you using both plays. It's not just one or the other. You have to kind of go with both because it's who to score the first touchdown. So Jalen Hurts is plus 800 to score the first touchdown. You know, there's games where he scored 3 touchdowns with his feet. So why wouldn't he maybe score the first touchdown here? Or Travis Kelce at plus 650. I believe he scored the first touchdown against the Bengals. So 2 good bets and 2 good payoffs. And I think those are 2 good candidates to have. So good value there. Also, here's a weird one. This is more like I want you to think about this one. And maybe I'm off the mark on this one. But there is also a bet that the first team to reach 5 penalties, I'm going to assume accepted penalties. So don't think we're talking about a off defensive holding penalty where the Chiefs get 20 yards on a pass and they decline the penalty. So 5 accepted penalties. So there's 3 options here. Obviously, picking Kansas City or pick Philadelphia. KC is plus 125. Philadelphia is plus 120. And there's a none that neither team would reach this total. I think it's a lock that at least one of these teams is going to have 5 accepted penalties. There's no way, the way this game is officiated, that one side is not going to have a heavier set of penalties. So I'm looking at this as a lock. And if you have both teams over plus, take both teams. Get a quick $20. I don't know. Just something to think about, because I just don't see a team not hitting 5 penalties. So this could be a locked-in little bit of money, but just something to ponder. First to 5 punts. I mean, minus 110 that nobody hits the 5 punts. I mean, do you see these teams punting a lot? I see these teams moving the ball, maybe being in a situation where they're, in their the other opposition's territory, and they're going for it, and they're not punting the ball away. So I think minus 110 that neither team will reach 5 punts in the game is good value. All right, so that's kind of the things I see in the Super Bowl. What else? What else do you need to know in the Super Bowl? I mean, I got so much experience that no, I'm kidding. I have experience of going to watch a Super Bowl and winning some and losing some. So I think the best Super Bowl I've ever had is the Denver-Carolina Super Bowl. For some reason, everything went my way. So that was crazy. One bet that's not on FanDuel, just kind of going back to our bets that should be on Bet365, and I didn't check it out beforehand, is check out the successful 2-point conversion. I mean, I think the odds are great that a 2-point conversion will be made or at some point in this game. So I think there's value there as well. So that's in a nutshell. Super Bowl 57. Kansas City is going to be your Super Bowl champion. Patrick Mahomes' legend is going to rise once again. And the Eagles, great shot. Great year this year, but it's just not going to be your year. I think it's kind of going to be like that Steeler-Packer Super Bowl where the Steelers already have their kind of their Super Bowls under their belt, and it was just the Packers' time. I just have that feeling. Obviously, the histories don't match, but I just have that feeling that the Eagles had a great year. What's funny, if you look at their schedule, they had a weak schedule. To be honest, they really didn't have that tough of a matchups throughout the whole year that really pushed them to evolve as a team. So that might hurt them that they haven't faced adversity as much. So that's interesting to think about. Really go look through their schedule and who they played. It's quite an eye opening. I was listening to a program here in Toronto called Overdrive, and they kind of walked through the schedule. I'm like, wow, that's a pretty weak schedule, and probably did help them get to where they are. So it's just interesting, and that's maybe the reasons why I like Kansas City. All right, so that is Super Bowl talk. So that's probably why you came here to say, but I gotta add in some NBA, NHL, and and soccer, Bundesliga, and EPL plays here. NBA. I mean, just getting back into the betting. It's been up and down. It's been actually pretty good. I started off going crazy, but sometimes you get humbled, after a night of success, and then the next night you just can't win. But I'll give you the top, 5 reasons. I don't think any particular order, where you kind of the enjoyment of betting, or what I've noticed, kind of the learning lessons. Not I'm going to say enjoyment, learning lessons, or what I've noticed betting basketball. And one is the swings. It's when you bet a side in a game of basketball, the NBA. There are times when teams are up, double digits, almost pushing 20 points. But if they lose and they wind up losing, there's games where I was bet a few games where it doesn't matter what you see in the first quarter or second quarter. It doesn't tell the whole story of what's going to be happening in the fourth quarter. I'm watching the Milwaukee Buck game here. So the Lakers were up by 8 points. Not a huge lead, but definitely more in control than they are now. And with 6:30 to go in the fourth quarter, down by 7 points. So just it's wild shifts. It's wild. It's just crazy. And it's just huge swings that, if you're following, I'd recommend probably don't follow until the third quarter, because it just might give you some more gray hair. Betting overs. I mean, it's exciting in the NBA to bet overs, especially if you're kind of not in front of the TV watching the game and you're just watching the score to change. It's actually pretty fun. It's enjoyable. And, one of the most exciting bets to make in sports. And if you ever try to follow the live betting, it just goes up and down, up and down. What the expected total is, it's exciting to watch, and it's very interesting to follow along. So I like it, enjoy it, and one of my favorite bets to make an over in a basketball game. Unders, the opposite. It is excruciating watching a basketball game when you're cheering for the under. Once you think you're out of the woods, then they start hitting threes. It's crazy, and I hate it. It's a bad feeling. And again, if you're a professional gambler, you don't give a damn because you looked at your numbers and you took the right side. But as a non-professional gambler, when a part of this is the entertainment factor, I can't stand betting a basketball game, an under, in an NBA game. Just can't do it. Won't do it. Hate doing it. Well, I will do it, but not too often. Free throws. I can't believe that when you have a full-time job as an NBA player and the ridiculous athletic skill that we take for granted watching what these guys do, like whether it be just simply dribbling the way they do, getting up to the rim the way they do, the physical capability, it's amazing. But when it comes to free throws, somehow many teams or guys in the NBA are shooting less than 70%, if not lower. And I had a Charlotte Hornets, which garbage, by the way, and Orlando Magic over the last weekend. And the Charlotte Hornets missed 7 straight field goal or free throws. How is that possible? How can a professional basketball player fail at free throws? And a couple of these guys are jacking up threes with more comfort. It doesn't make sense. It's very frustrating and definitely affected my over-under in that particular game. But when you can't hit a free throw, give me a break. That's disgusting. And you know what? Lesson learned. The NBA totals are, if you compare it to 5-6 years ago, obviously it's becoming a shooting league. 3-pointers are becoming the norm. You're getting over-unders in the 230s and 240s. And I'm always hesitant. Man, it's 240. What am I going to do here? The other night, OKC and the Lakers was 240 or 240 and change. And I like the over. OKC is a run and gun team. The Lakers are a run and gun team. Just watching a missed free throw. And this from Reeves here that has been banging threes out all game, but can't hit a free throw. Anyway, but don't be afraid to bet the overs. I mean, I'm saying Vegas, but if your bookies and the money's moving towards, a 240 total, there's something to it. I mean, that OKC Laker game finished at 263 points. So I was hesitant, but really don't get, nervous. Some of those high totals are legit and worth taking a run at the over. Some of these teams, like the Golden State Warriors, I mean, when they're hot, man. They shoot. They don't, like, when teams are on fire, there's no stopping them points. I'm telling you that right now. So don't let that freak you out, and don't hesitate. So those are the top 5 things I've noticed and experienced so far getting back away from football into the NBA. Actually been really enjoyable, surprised, and look forward to continue betting until the playoffs. So good on you, NBA. You've won me over. All right. So going into some of the actual picks going into the weekend. So Friday picks, I like the Suns over the Pacers. The Suns lost. They're in a back-to-back, and usually teams, I guess how I'm looking at it is the back-to-back on the road. I think the Phoenix Suns, after a loss tonight, going into Indiana, I think I like the odds at minus 116. Obviously, you don't have Booker, you don't have Durant in the lineup, but I think they're on quite a roll right now where I think the back-to-back, I don't see them losing back-to-back games, and Indiana is not that great. And watch out for an early Indiana lead, an opportunity to take Phoenix live and play, maybe at a plus. That's all. That's a bonus pick. You're lucky to you've turned in today. Also, Utah Jazz. I'm living in Toronto. Like the Jazz, I guess we don't know what kind of lineup they're going to field. Westbrook probably won't be there, but they're not a bad team. I mean, the Raptors +7 7-point favorites. Like, where do they? I don't see it. I see the Raptors potentially winning, but I don't see them, 8-9 point win. So there's value there. I'll take the Jazz in that one. And OKC +138 over Portland. Like, what has Portland done? OKC just came off a win over the Lakers. They lost against Golden State on the road trip. Portland, I mean, there's value there. Portland's not that, what have they done? So OKC +138, there's value, but maybe there's more value at the +3.5 and -108. So I'm gonna say I might take +138, but I'm gonna put on the podcast +3.5, -108 is the play. I'm going into Saturday, some games to look at. The numbers are not out yet, but you have Lakers, Golden State. Obviously, LeBron will probably be playing that game. And you got to like the totals in that, probably over. Or look to take the alternate total, whatever that may be. You probably want to bring it down 5, 6, 7 points and tag it with the Hawks over the Spurs and see what that. Again, I can't see what the money line is for the Hawks, so Atlanta Hawks. So I'm just taking a flyer that there'd be something of value there. And Bucks Clippers. I mean, actually, that's tomorrow night, Friday. Sorry, I missed that on the Friday. Bucks Clippers right now, you can get the line that the Clippers are a -1 favorite. I mean, I'm going to say Bucks. I mean, the Bucks are not great on the road. They're not even close to what they are at home. So I got to think there's value there. But I like the Bucks side of things. I think they're Clippers are a good team, but they're not a great team. And I think the Bucks will show face. They don't have to travel anywhere. They're playing in the same arena. So the Crypto.com arena. So that's that for the NBA. And hopefully my picks this week are better than last week because it kind of sucked big time. NHL action. And since the All-Star break, NHL's gone back. Where the hell's my place? Oh, yeah. So I had mentioned, really tomorrow, I think what I've noticed is the Seattle Kraken, we're a high-flying team, pre-All-Star break, had a previous road trip where they were on fire. I think they won 7 in a row, whatever it was. And it seems they've come out of the All-Star break a little bit soft, a little bit slow. And not scoring a lot of goals. And, the over-under is only 5.5, where the NHL is now usually you're seeing games at 6.5. I like the under in this game. So just take that for what it is. So tomorrow night, Rangers, Kraken, under 5.5. Not much else to suggest. I mean, there's a lot of NHL action, a lot of afternoon action if you want some early Saturday hockey action. I think there's like 4 12:30 games, which is amazing because obviously lining up for some teams that are playing back-to-back on Super Bowl Sunday early. So take a look at that schedule. And when it comes to EPL action, we have Arsenal. I like goal. I'm going to just tell you the over-unders I like. I like Brentford and Arsenal over 2.5 goals. Tottenham and Leicester City at 10 o'clock on Saturday. Love that game to be over 2.5. I see that game maybe even 4 goals. So take that for what it is. And I think that's pretty much all I got here today for you. And I wish you the best in your Super Bowl experience. Enjoy it. It's going to be gone until August, where preseason starts up again. So take it all in, enjoy it, be safe out there, and pleasure's all been yours. And over and out, and see you next time.